All right, let's cue up a countdown and we'll be going live in 5. Hello there, Mr. Duke Lowry.
Hello there.
How did you like that ominous sounding music there at the end of that countdown intro?
That was ominous. That is a good word, ominous.
Foreboding, ominous, all those good adjectives. Hey, by the way, I've got a question for you. So,
Question for me.
yeah,
As I'm sharing out to my page real quick, and hopefully I'm not. If you know a tech guy that I can talk to about correcting me on my flawed sharing here. Okay, there we go. I'm good.
Yeah. So I understand that you might have a new nickname, so to speak. And so I've kind of heard this through the grapevine, and the word is, I think the word is contrarian.
Contrarian? Me?
Yes. I'm going to put this on the screen here, and I think I spelled that correctly. I did it in a hurry, so hopefully so. So I'm going to put this over the top of you in the screen.
Well, contrarian. What? Wow. I mean, you need to put some kind of medal, like a bronze star or something or whatever, either side, some kind of medal that's an honor.
Yeah. So kind of maybe help us out a little bit. I mean, I can pull up the dictionary version, but why would you be called or nicknamed a contrarian?
I don't know. I mean, that sounds to me like a word that a lawyer might use. I mean, I'm no lawyer. I may be a Rhodes Scholar from Stupidville, but I'm no lawyer. So I'm not 100% sure what the definition of a contrarian is.
Well, let me kind of give you a little bit of my insight, because I've been thinking about this since I heard about this. And a contrarian might be somebody that doesn't go along with the rest of the grain. It might be somebody that doesn't just vote for things because the rest of the good old boys want to do it. Maybe that's what a contrarian actually is.
Ooh, you just touched a nerve. That sounds a lot like a meme that I just saw here on Facebook from Matt Getz. I'll read it. When they don't get their way, they want to change the rules while they break the existing ones. They accuse us of attacking our institutions.
That sounds awfully familiar if you've been involved in, let's just say, things around Bossier Parish.
Yeah. Well, I guess if somebody has to be a contrarian, I may as well be a contrarian by that definition.
I'm sure you've been called worse, and I know I have. So, all right. Well, you want to go ahead and let's do some just little quick introductions now that we know you're a contrarian. Maybe let people know a little bit more about you besides just that little known tidbit there.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm Duke Lowry, lifelong resident of Bossier Parish. I love politics. I retired from the fire department. I was a public servant for 20 years. I was grateful to be able to serve the citizens of Bossier City for all those years, and been involved in politics, primarily Republican politics. Delegate to the last 3 national conventions, and I'm proud to say that in 2016, I cast one of the votes and worked on the most conservative platform in the history of the Republican Party. And while our Democrat viewers may not care too much for that, I respect that. But that's kind of my background.
Yeah, well. And just so everybody knows, I'm, of course, Rex Moncrief, as the little name tag in the video says. I love and have been blessed with a few talents, one of which is technology stuff and computers and all that. The other one is fishing. I love to bass fish. There's no doubt about that. And like Duke, the third thing is I've been involved in politics for, I don't know, close to a decade or so. As a matter of fact, Duke was one of the guys that initially kind of brought me into the forefront of some of this. And so we've decided to put this Bossier Watch live show together, and you'll also see some of our periodic videos, shorter form videos and all that we produce. And basically, we just want to keep a watch out on the things that are going on in Bossier Parish and ask some of the questions that, honestly, Duke, I got to tell you, I found out in the last several days with people reaching out to me kind of anonymously, or they don't want their information shared. I found out in the last few days there are a lot of people in Bossier Parish who would love to speak out, but they're literally afraid of saying things because of what might happen to them by certain, let's just call it the good old boys around here. They're literally afraid of this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, and like you, I mean, and from our last shows, since that time, I think maybe, you know, there's some folks have followed us, and maybe we've said what our intent was, and that we're going to try to be informative and fact-based, and maybe talk about subjects that the regular media wouldn't talk about. And like you, I've even had some folks start to reach out and share information, and again, they're fearful of speaking up. They know things. They're willing to share information, and frankly, I feel a little overwhelmed just with the information that's flowed in this week alone. You know, like you.
Yeah, I would agree. And, you know, we kind of teased the show out a little bit that we were actually going to start connecting some of the dots, and we're not ready to do that just at the moment, I don't think. But I want to let everybody watching know that we absolutely are going to start connecting a few dots this evening. So you want to make sure and tag your friends or share this out on your feed, you know, share it out into a local group or something like that. Let everybody join in, because we're going to kind of get down in the weeds a little bit, but yeah, we're actually going to start naming a few names this evening. So it could be interesting, and might want to have your seatbelts on.
Yeah, and you know, and we, again, like you said, we have talked about it in our previous shows, and we had a few guests on, and we had plans to have a guest on for this show. And with some of the stuff that has come in, we felt like we needed to kind of go ahead and get down in the weeds and start doing some of this stuff, and talking about some of the things that maybe quite a few people probably wouldn't want us to talk about, or they want things to be easier. They don't want contrarians.
Right? I don't want contrarians. Hey, I gotta interrupt you for a second. Rusty just put in there, he's got us on a 70-inch, I'll assume 70-inch television. That's actually cool. Good job, Rusty.
Well, we're not going to have any negative things about whether my beard is pruned appropriately, or the color of my hat, or the shading on my face, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, it is what it is, so everybody can just get used to it. And let's see here. Mike Cummings Jr. said, "Run, Duke, run."
Yeah, run for the hills.
Yeah, and of course, my wife Gina said, "Hey guys." She's in there getting dinner ready, I think, at the moment, so I'll have that.
She is the best, with the exception of my bride. Me and you can have that argument.
Yeah, well, Gina will be happy now, because I actually put her comment up in the show tonight. So, you know, she's a pretty good fan, I suppose, just like I'm sure Kara is as well.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's kind of, you know, we've been sitting here for just a few minutes, folks. Let everybody kind of get in. Looks like we've got about 11 simultaneous right now. I just shared this out into a couple of groups, and so we'll see if we pick up a couple more people here in just a few minutes. So we've got, looks like our first topic here is going to be like recent events update. So
yeah,
you got something you want to start off with?
Yeah, you know, in our first show, or our first shows, I mean, some of them, I mean, we had the folks with the JBE recall thing, and I see that kind of firing up. And a lot of folks, you got that action down in the legislature. We even had Senator Robert Mills that came on, and we really kind of got down into what's happening in the legislature with that. And you see it kind of firing up now. JB's filed a lawsuit against the House and the Speaker of the House, Chuck Snyder, and curious about how that's going to turn out. I kind of think that the House will prevail, in my opinion.
Yeah, did you happen to read the lawsuit that John Bell posted? Have you read that yet?
Oh no! I mean, my gosh,
Well, I of course skimmed through it, because of course this is going to be a big tug of war and all that. But one of the interesting things was, in his lawsuit, he mentions they did all of this stuff. Everybody remembers the almost total lockdown and had to stay in your house and the whole 9 yards, and that after that we had another surge. So it's like he's saying all the things that he implemented as governor didn't actually really work very well. So this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think that probably once we get past these elections, I would suspect that lawsuit will find its way to the top of the food chain pretty quickly. And one way or the other, that'll be resolved. And once this election on November 2nd is over with, I think that recall of John Bell Edwards will take off like a rocket.
Yeah, it's already definitely gaining steam, and I think you're right. Once we get the main election out of the way next week, where people can focus a little more on that, I wouldn't doubt that at all. So, all right. Well, I've got a couple of topics to share, of course, and as usual right now I'm pretty heavily still focused on the Cypress Black Bayou Recreation blah 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 district. That's like a never-ending rabbit hole, and I wanted to let everybody know, let's see if I'm going to queue up a video for a second. So this is a video that I released the other day on Bossier Watch, and I'm going to go ahead and play it here again. This is dealing with an event center at the Cypress Park up there, and this was touted originally in this $3 million bond, actually loan issue. It was touted as a $1 million event center. So I'm going to roll this video here for a second. It's about 1 minute, and then Duke, I'll bring us back as soon as it's through. Well, I was sitting there drinking my coffee this morning and thought I'd answer the question that many of you have asked. What happened to the event center out at the Cypress Park? As a reminder, this was listed as a $1 million capital outlay project in the $3 million bond / actually loan that the Cypress District took out in 2015. So what happened to it? Well, let's let Jerry Fowler tell us himself.
If you've seen the new event center down across from the beach, if we'd have bid that out on a contracted basis, it would cost $125,000 to $150,000. That building was built turnkey for $40,000. And sincerely, thank you, Robert, for the job that you've done.
Notice he talked about under the leadership of Robert Berry, they were able to build this event center for only $40,000. So that begs the inevitable question, where's the other $960,000? Make sure and like and follow. Okay, so I mentioned in there, where's the other $960,000? And of course, I usually don't ask too many questions that I don't already know the answer to. So the other $960,000, and this is going by the budget numbers supplied to us by the Cypress District under public information requests. The other $960,000 has basically been used to prop up that park. Here's the deal, folks. The park brings in somewhere around, last several years on an average, about $400,000 per year in revenue just from the park, as listed again in their official budget numbers. Their payroll alone is $560,000, just the payroll. That doesn't include electricity, maintenance, lawn care, everything else that goes on at that park. They are so far upside down, it's almost like the Titanic at that park. And therein lies the problem. The tax millage money that comes in every year, which is a little over $1 million, the landowner fees that come in every year, which is about a couple of $100,000, 150,000, whatever it is right now, all of that money is used to prop up that park out there. So I've done a request, a Freedom of Information request again, of a couple of things. One of them is I want the actual monthly P&Ls, the income and expense income and expense information. And then number two, the demographics and sales figures for the RVs, the tent, camping, all of that comes into that park, to see whether that park is really justified even being there. So that's where the other $960,000 went. Basically, propping up the rest of the park.
You know, I mean, listening to you, explain, your research and what you're learning about this, as a resident of Bossier and, also someone that lives on the lake, I don't recall ever having the vision of having an amusement park out there. I don't know that that's what Bossier desired to ever have. I made a joke at one of the Friends of Cypress Black Bayou meetings, and to somebody that was there, and I said, the next thing we're going to have a Ferris wheel out there. And to my surprise, the lady said to me, she said, they talked about that.
Yeah.
I said, wait a minute, are you being serious? And she said, oh yeah, that was a subject of discussion. It blows my mind of what some people were thinking. I mean, I don't know that the taxpayers of Bossier Parish wanted the premier park in the nation up here. I don't know that that was their desire.
Well, and I'm not really sure either, because, when the park was built, I mean, I was a young kid. And, look, my grandmother used to take us up to the lake, and grandparents did, and family did, back in the, mid to late 70s, not long after the lake and park were built and the beach and all that. Maybe it was early 80s. And, we enjoyed it then, but things have shifted. And here's the catch to all this is when you go to the district board meetings, the district board is basically under the illusion that the park is what has driven up the property values around Cypress Lake. Now, I'm, no real estate person whatsoever, but I don't agree with that. I don't think that that's so. And, they always use, I think it's Cherokee Lake or whatever lake over in East Texas to try to compare Cypress to, because it is unusual in the way it's written from the legislature. But what they should really do is compare it to Caney Lake down at Chatham and Jonesboro. Caney Lake is almost the identical same size, was created back in the 50s and 60s, didn't really get impounded and flooded until the 80s. But when you go down to Caney Lake, the homes, the yards down there, everything rivals anything on Cypress Lake. And they don't have a board of commissioners down there that are, let's just say, not liked very well by a large number of people. So my contention is, maybe they should consider selling the land at the park, shutting the park down, leave a boat ramp there, and selling those lots, and then they would get landowner fees there. Now, I'm quite sure that that's never going to be on the table, but that's kind of my contention at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to kind of report and cover on that?
Yeah, one more quick thing. So I'm going to flip us over here. Let's see if I can get this to play nicely. So there is a group of people, many of them are in the Friends of Cypress Black Bayou group, but it's actually kind of a separate group that they've created. And they're calling it for the Taxpayers for a Better Government. Now, I don't think they've set up a PAC or anything like that at all yet, but that's just kind of what they're calling their group. So I'm going to flip us over here to show our BossierWatch.org website, and I've put a button here, click for the petition. They are circulating a petition since the Bossier Parish Police Jury refuses to ask Robert Berry to step down as the executive director because of his dual office holding violation. Remember, he's got a lawsuit from both the DA's office and the Attorney General's office. And so there's a petition now. There's a couple of hundred signatures at least on the petition. So they came to me and asked me if I would create an online one, so I did. And you can go to bossierwatch.org, click the button there to click for the petition, and you fill out the information. It lists what you're signing, and this is going to be presented to the police jury at some point, maybe even the levy board, the Bossier City Council, etc. And you fill that out, and you can digitally sign it, and then it goes to the group, and you know they can print them out or however they're going to submit that. So this is very active. It's at last count that I heard, they're at over a couple of hundred signatures on the petition, and they're getting ready to present this pretty soon to at least the Bossier Parish Police Jury, because they're the ones that appointed Robert Berry as executive director. They knew he was executive director, and he's a commissioner. That's basically dual office holding or incompatible offices, because he's getting paid about $127,000 a year as the director of the park out there. And the Attorney General, Jeff Landry's office, gave him an opportunity to remove himself, and he literally ignored that. And so the DA's office is charged legally with enforcing these. And so, long story made short, they filed a suit against Berry and the Cypress District. Jeff Landry's office found out about that. They filed their own suit because the statute reads that it's against the individual himself, which in this case, or herself, but in this case would be Robert Berry.
Well, now, wait a minute now. It seems like that's a little wag the dog of what you're saying there.
Yeah, it is.
Kind of caught you on guard a little bit there.
Well, hold on. So
you,
let me play this one other video clip while we're sitting here. So this is
I'm not understanding that. I'm not understanding that what you're saying is exactly what is actually happening.
Well, here's the deal. So at a police jury meeting, I forget, month and a half, 2 months ago or whatever, Patrick Jackson, who is the assistant district attorney, and by the way, I'm getting way off in the weeds here again, but the district attorney's office should actually be representing the Cypress district. But that's a whole other story. So Patrick Jackson presented the DA's lawsuit against Robert Berry and the Cypress district at a public police jury meeting. And I want you to notice, see if you catch what he says here at the end, and also pay attention to how good the audio and video quality of this video is. We'll get to that here in a second. So I'm going to roll this video. So it'll take about 30 seconds.
Well, last time you came, you had a letter that gave the district attorney so much time to bring a lawsuit over the subject. That's the lawsuit.
So what does this mean? Does this mean
That the district attorney has asked a court to determine whether the attorney general is correct or not.
So did you catch that last part from Patrick Jackson?
I caught it, definitely.
Instead of saying that they filed a lawsuit to, determine whether Robert Berry is actually violating the law, etc., which it's plain as day, his statement was to see if the Attorney General is correct or not. That's ridiculous. And again, the other thing is, I guess from a legal standpoint with all this going on, it's a good thing that the DA's office actually finally did something, because they've known he was doing this since they hired him as executive director. But then they filed it against the Cypress District too, which means the $100,000 a year Caddo Parish law firm can help represent Berry during this suit along with the district. This is just nuts.
Now, I know you're noticing this funny look that I have on my face, and I'm wondering just how in the heck I'm the only person that's being accused of being a contrarian.
Well, I guess they'll have to figure out a different word to use. I've been called a lot of other things, trust me.
Clean.
Yeah.
So, I don't understand. I mean, it almost seems like, I noticed that, and this was another thought that I had, and this as we go forward, we all know folks that are associated with, the police jury, friends, lifelong friends, family, with all these different, as we progress into this, I mean, obviously we're bearing fruit as to things that are not public knowledge and things that needs to go out there. And there's things that people don't want to go out there. I mean, we're going to start making some folks uncomfortable. Don't you agree?
Oh, I agree. And that little bit right there was just kind of the tip of the iceberg, because interestingly, if I remember correctly in our notes, we have some of the same players that are involved in some other things that might be considered a little controversial, maybe?
And that was the point I was wanting to make. I mean, is this personal for you?
No, it's not personal. Look, the truth is, like in the case of Robert Berry, he was on the Bossier Republican PEC with both you and I. And
he was.
Personally, Robert's always been nice to me. Now, full disclosure, the Inquisitor did an article after the DA's office filed a lawsuit. Robert got a little mad about that, and at one of the Cypress meetings, 5 or 6 meetings ago, he has decided that I can't put my audio recorder up there on the table. His deal was, well, it might add COVID, even though I've been doing it for, I don't know, half a dozen meetings before then. And if you watch some of the Cypress meetings that I post, there's this mysterious table, that they have turned up vertically, and it keeps getting moved further and further and further out into the area where the public is supposed to sit. It's like they're trying to push everybody backwards.
So are you telling me that this board is intentionally trying to maybe deter, keyword I said maybe, trying to deter what's taking place at this meeting from being put out there in the public?
Yeah, and if you listen, of course, I'm pretty good technically, and so I can boost the audio, but they're talking quieter and quieter. I'm not making this up, folks. You can ask, the other people that are at the meetings. And so,
well, it should be on your video, right?
Yeah. Look, the question has even been asked by one of the Cypress board members, and you know who you are, if they could stop me, or anybody else for that matter, from videoing those meetings. And I have news for them. Again, don't rely on your high-dollar attorneys from Caddo Parish. It's real simple. Just go read the law. You can't stop anybody from videoing the meetings. You have to accommodate them. Granted, public bodies can institute some policies to make sure that, there's room for people to move around and it's not a safety issue, but they have to accommodate anyone from videoing or recording the audio of these meetings, even if the public body already records them.
I'm listening to you say that, and you are reminding me of an instance when, at one point in my career at the fire department, I was the Civil Service Board representative for Bossier City Fire Department. Mm-hmm. And I recall how bad the recording of those meetings were then. And, I wondered, was that intentional? Oh, that puppy. Sorry about that.
Oh, no big deal.
But I recall those meetings having poor audio, and I think if I recall correctly, we may have another body that has poor audio, video. Now, I don't know that they're actually required to provide us with the audio and video, but you would think that when we have all these folks elected and doing our work for us as taxpayers, that there would be nothing that they would want to hide, correct?
Well, that is correct. And as a matter of fact, I have a video queued up from one of our public bodies. Now, let's give them a little bit of credit where it's due. At least they're trying, but the video that I played with Patrick Jackson, I recorded with my iPhone at a police jury meeting, and you heard how good the audio quality was in that. And of course the video looked pretty good too. So let me play you what the police jury, the Bossier Parish Police Jury, what they stream and release as their meetings, and see if you can even understand this at all. So give me just a second here. And let me cue this up. I need to go picture in picture. All right, and I've got my volume on my computer turned up all the way. And this is the, as you can see up here, this is the October 21st meeting. This is actually where they fired the library lady. We'll get to that in a minute. But let me play this, and I want you to listen to it. We'll just play about 20 or 30 seconds.
I was asked to serve the remainder of Mrs. McHaffey's term. Having served 37 years, it's been one of the greatest honors I've received.
Okay, so I'll stop that. Could you hear that or understand it?
Did you play something?
Yes, this poor lady has been with the library for like 25 years or however long, and they're literally about to fire her off the board. But yeah, that's the point, is the audio quality is horrible. I was in the same room with an iPhone, and you heard my video. Our police jury that has a budget of however many cajillion dollars can't even get decent audio to broadcast out. Come on, guys.
Are you bucking for a job?
No, not with those guys. They wouldn't like me.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess we have covered that subject, in which we wanted to touch that these public bodies need to not be so unwilling to want to share the information. And you know, I do know that we've had some folks share with us that we need to focus more on the committee meetings, that the regular meetings are just for show and tell, but the actual decision making they do in the committee meetings, right?
That is pretty much where the cream of the crop of what goes on at those meetings actually happens. To me, the actual public meetings are pretty much just a dog and pony show. They got to go through the motions. They got to do it. Now, I will say this, every now and then when you have somebody from the public come up and do a public comment, during their allotted time, sometimes it does get interesting. But for the most part, as far as the actual police jurors or, whoever it may be, whatever public body, we're just picking on them at the moment. But yeah, it's pretty much a dog and pony show, already predetermined, so. Yeah, but like the finance committee meeting could be very interesting.
Yeah, it could be for numerous bodies.
Yes. So.
Yeah, so we've kind of, I guess you could say we went down the rabbit hole and got off of our track a little bit. Do we want to kind of try to get back on track?
Well, we can, and maybe we use this video that I just showed. Let me flip back over to that for a second here. And, we kind of mentioned and kind of teased out a little bit about the library deal. And full disclosure, we haven't completely done a deep dive into this, but we've had some people reach out to us who are very involved with this. And basically, this lady lives in Dorleen, which is, right across Clark's Bayou and all that on the other side of the state park down at Bistineau, which is in Webster Parish. And she's been with the library board for, I forget, 25, 30 years, whatever, and done a spectacular job. They even offered to write her a letter of recommendation, but they just canned her.
I thought she had served something to the tune of 36 to 38 years or something. I may have heard it wrong. But.
Oh, it may be. But they canned her, and correct me if I'm wrong, dude, because I think you kind of watched some of the video too or looked at it, but the reasoning by Doug Rimmer, I believe, was that, they got to follow the rules now. Now,
yeah, I watched the video and I heard him say, unfortunately, we have to follow the rules. And incidentally, if I recall correctly, which we have the video so we can play it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. She said, this police jury had reviewed the issue of me living in Doylean and okayed me to serve in this role, and years prior. And it begs the question, why all of a sudden are they wanting to enforce the rule of you, or if there is a rule, I don't even know. I mean, like you said, we haven't researched into it, that you have to live in the parish. I mean, if this lady who had served, and has obviously, she was committed to it, 30 something plus years of service to the library board. I mean, she's loyal to it. Now you're going to apply the rules. All of a sudden, why? And if I recall correctly, I'm going to add one more caveat, and I'll share the time. I think that maybe the current police jury would have, in her term, would have appointed her. Why did they not address the issue prior to that? Why only now and not in previous terms when she was up to be renewed to be on the board?
Well, I don't know. It's almost like we might need to follow the money or something, because I'm gonna stay on the follow the rules for a second, and I'm gonna circle right back to the Robert Berry situation. The police jury is a bunch of hypocrites. Here's the reason. It's clear cut in the law about dual office holding and incompatible offices. It's crystal clear. And they don't do anything about that. They literally did a good cop, bad cop routine. So they let the Bossier DA's office, which by law has to enforce this, be the bad cop, so they wouldn't have to ask for Robert Berry's resignation. I mean, he wouldn't resign anyway. He would force it into a lawsuit either way, but it's the principle of it. So they're not worried about the rules and following the law then, but with this library situation, all of a sudden, with a lady that's helped the library system and obviously done wonderful things for it for 25 plus years, however long it is, to over 30 years, all of a sudden they're interested in following the law to the T? Really?
Our viewers may wonder who replaced this lady who served for 30 plus years. I mean, who did they put in her place?
It could be some of the same people that are on the police jury.
It could be.
If my understanding is correct, now I've not watched through the whole video and the subsequent meetings, but if I'm understanding correctly, like they appointed themselves on the library board. Current police jurors appointed themselves on the library board.
But it seems like, Rex, that we're wanting to have our cake and eat it too. And I know we're going a little further into this than what we had intended to, but it's just how we got to learn to restrain ourselves a little bit. But so we're throwing rocks about the Cypress Black Bayou board,
right?
But then we're also throwing rocks about police jury members actually digging into the library board and the money there. So we want them to, but then we don't want them to. Well, what do we actually want?
Well, all right. So let me just make at least my position in all this clear. And look, I don't own any property on the lake. I just fish at Cypress. Honestly, I'm really upset about having to buy that butt-ugly boat sticker and pay a launch fee. That's the thing that I'm the most upset about. But right is right and wrong is wrong with this. And I'm not, and I know a lot of the other people that, are bringing a lot of this information about the Cypress District to light. We're not asking the police jury to appoint themselves to the Cypress board. And see, that's the difference.
I wonder, was it posted anywhere that there would be openings to be, potentially be on this board, at the library board? I wonder if there's any citizens of Bossier that would be interested.
Yeah, it's not that I've seen, full disclosure. I hadn't looked, really seriously at it yet. It's like, I know it's on my radar, but we're just starting to scratch the surface. So I can't say for sure, but I certainly haven't seen any, and I don't think they've put it on the police jury's page. Interestingly enough, today, they shared out, let me do a little picture-in-picture with this one. So there we go. So interestingly enough today, let's see if I can zoom in just a tad, yeah. They posted this on their Facebook page. So it looks like they're planning on a new $9.5 million central library.
Well, you know, I think that was originally the plan anyway. If I recall correctly, they've been planning that for a while. That was part of why that millage had come forward about voting for the libraries back years ago.
Correct. I think you're correct on that. Yes, sir.
Now, the History Center thing, I don't recall if that was a part of it or not. It may have been, but I wonder what else is going to come of that.
I don't know. I mean, there was a comment here on their Facebook page. I think somebody commented something. Yeah, here we go. Do people actually still use libraries? And actually, same thing my wife asked me. She said, do a lot of people still use the libraries? And I already knew the answer. Interestingly, library usage has gone up even as internet usage and social media usage has gone up, because a lot of the libraries, and I'm sure Bossier's included, I've only been to the Bossier Library a handful of times, but a lot of them have transitioned to allowing computer use and moved into some digital technologies and all that. So actually library use as a whole, at least nationwide, has gone up. So, whether we need a new library or not, maybe we need another branch, but apparently they're going to revamp the one that's already there, from what they're saying here.
It would seem to me, in my experience, I haven't been to the library in quite a few years, except to maybe vote, but it seems to me that they have always done a fabulous job, and it seems like the library system has been in control of things. It begs the question, why would the police jury need to appoint multiple police juries to the library board all of a sudden? But perhaps we'll find out, and perhaps some of the anonymous information that's being shared with us will answer those questions, right?
Oh yes, we've had plenty of that shared with us too, and yeah, it's going to take a little while to sift through some of that and start digging into it and do some information requests, public information requests, and confirm some of what was shared with us and that sort of thing. But yeah, there are people absolutely coming forward now.
So you want to move on from that topic and get back on track?
Yeah, I was kind of scrolling through our topics. I'll get way over here off on a tangent, and you got to kind of rein me in. So.
Yeah, I can see the contrarian in you just kind of taking control.
Yes.
So,
okay. Next topic. What's up next?
Well, in a previous show, we had the constitutional amendments. I don't think that really there's anything to talk about there. But one of the things we haven't talked about is any of the races going on. I mean, what's your feel? Is Trump going to prevail?
Well, I mean, look, I always tell everybody the facts are the facts. In 2016, he lost the popular vote by, what was it, 3.5 million? Of course, he won by the Electoral College, which, good thing our founding fathers thought of the Electoral College. We are not a direct democracy. We are a republic. But I think, if you take COVID out of the way, and you look at the economy, the growth, people like to vote with their pocketbooks, no matter what. In the end, when they're sitting there in that booth, they like to vote with their pocketbooks. So I think he's going to gain votes. I think he's going to gain votes in certain sectors of the voting population that have traditionally been democratically controlled for the last 40 plus years. He may not gain much, but I think he's going to gain there. And so, yeah, I think ultimately he's easily going to win just on, merit of the economy and some of the other things he's done, the Supreme Court appointees and all that. Then if you add in all the, let's just say, current Biden controversy, I'm pretty confident that he should prevail. I still think it's going to be close, no doubt.
So, Senator Cassidy, the question is will he pull it out in the primary, or will he be forced into a runoff? You know as well as I do, in Louisiana politics in a statewide race, it all comes down to turnout in Orleans Parish.
Right.
David Vitter, for example, 100,000 votes against JBE, and the difference, that's what he lost by roughly. I think it may have been 150,000, I think. And that was the difference in Orleans Parish. So it's out of our wheelhouse. I don't know. I can't put my finger on that one.
Well, so of course I hadn't pulled it up yet, but if I remember right, isn't Cassidy's main competitor Adrian Perkins?
Yeah, as I know it, I think
I know there's some other candidates on the ballot, and so that may dilute it a little bit. But I would argue his primary competition is Adrian Perkins, and we all know how well he's done as mayor of Shreveport. I mean, there are a lot of people disillusioned with that young guy right now because he's basically using it like a lot of our politicians, even on the Republican side, do, as a stepping stone to another office. I mean, it's obvious, and he's had his own controversies with other things and all that. So I think my just gut feeling is Cassidy is liked well enough. Of course, there are people on the left, around here that just, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, they think you're Satan. But I think he's liked well enough, has done a good enough job so far that I'm quite sure he's gonna pull this off.
Yeah. Are there any other races that you come to mind?
Not any that I'm paying super close attention to. I mean, of course, there's the Ben Gibson and Mike Johnson race, and I think Ben's doing a good job and doing what he can. That's going to be a very tough hill to climb. We'll see. You never know.
Yeah, I had never talked to Ben Gibson or even met the guy until after I was accused of actually recruiting him to be in the race against Mike Johnson.
Oh, there's more about you that I didn't know about.
Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
This gets into the Republican Parish Executive Committee and the politics. I was personally accused of recruiting Ben Gibson and never met the guy. Before that, after the fact, I took it upon myself to, what is this about, and learn it. And I like the guy. I think his motivations for wanting to run are in order. Do I like his chances? Not so much. And I shared that with him. I mean, like you said, he's got a big hill to climb, but is he a good guy, and is his heart in the right place? I think so. I really do.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, he just hadn't had many opportunities to do photo ops, with Trump and different things like that, of course. But, and I hadn't met him personally yet, just the things I've read about him and some of his Facebook posts and all that. I think he's a good guy, and I think, he's as qualified as anybody to run. And he's got a shot. He's got an uphill battle to climb, but he's got a shot, and hey, I applaud him just for running.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just put a comment up from my wife. She mentioned city judge.
Well, the contrarian in me wants to talk about that race a little bit, I guess.
Well, full disclosure, Cynthia Carroll Bridges lives right down the street from me. And she did hire me to help her with some of her campaign videos. So I am a little biased, not because she hired me. I don't do that sort of thing for anybody that I don't like and believe in and was going to pull the lever for them anyways. But just want to put that out there in full disclosure. So I'll let you put your 2 cents in.
Well, Cynthia Carroll Bridges is a good person. I've known her family almost all of my life. I mean, she's a good person. She wants to serve. She's ranked for judge several times. Been in some ugly races, and I think her heart and her calling to serve is in the right place. Santi Parks, I don't know him. again, full disclosure, my only knowledge of him is being sued by him. Back when I ran for state representative, there was a suit on the part of Santi Parks against me for a dispute that I had with or not necessarily I personally wasn't involved in the issue, and frankly didn't really know about it until after the fact. But it was politics, and he was playing it, and we'll just leave it there. If at some point he desires to go into that a whole lot deeper, we can certainly go into that. I don't think that's what he wants, but we can certainly do it. He'll think he does. But on that point, this week I had an interesting message sent to me that questioned his endorsement by the Fraternal Order of Police, being a a fireman in Bossier City for 20 years, and I was a reserve officer for Bossier City. I know a lot of officers up there, and a lot of them that are members of the Fraternal Order of Police, and to their knowledge, they didn't know of an endorsement by the Fraternal Order of Police.
Oh, well, let me kind of put this on the screen and move our little positions around. So would this be the endorsement and mailer that you're referring to?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is. I haven't personally seen it. Obviously, being in politics, the question was posed to me. I don't. I sent an email to the Louisiana Fraternal Order of Police as well as one to Bossier, and I haven't gotten a response back. I mean, I'm pretty sure I got the right email addresses, but I've gotten no response. So I don't know. I wonder about that endorsement. He probably was, and it's probably nothing to it, probably hearsay, but it was a question that's out there.
And some of the people watching the show may already know, I know you do, that, one of my claims to fame, so to speak, is that in the past I've helped campaigns. Let's just say helped campaigns. Let's put it that way. And you and I both know, and I'm not saying Santi Parks did this or not, but as a general rule, a lot of times when you're in the middle of a campaign, you'll use anything, even if you're bumping up to the line of the gray area for an endorsement sort of thing. And, this probably is legit. I know, like you said, you've reached out and tried to figure it out, but there has been some question about it raised by more than one person. And so it's just worth asking the question, and looking into. That's about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And my radar kind of, when I heard it, I really didn't think nothing a whole lot about it. And then we had the Republican Parish Executive Committee meeting for endorsements here not long ago. You may recall that. Oh, yes. And interestingly, and you having been on the PEC, you know a little bit about the endorsement policy. And we had a meeting that was called, and in the call, it was for a regular meeting. And here we go, connecting dots. So the folks who are watching here may pay attention to some of the names here. Doug Rimmer. Doug Rimmer, police juryman. Doug Rimmer is now the chairman of the Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee. And anyway, we had a call. Yeah, there you go. You have it up, right? Yep. We had a call for a regular meeting to consider endorsements. And upon getting to the meeting, after we had some dialogue, it ends up that this turns out to be a special meeting. Doug Rimmer pointed out that this is a special meeting and we can't bring up new business in the special meeting. And along the way of considering the endorsements, it was determined that we didn't have enough members present, according to the bylaws, to make any endorsements. Really? But yet, right here in front of you, we have endorsements. And I'm not saying that the endorsements were wrong, or I'm not making that point, but the point that I am making is that we had a special meeting to make endorsements, and the chairman, Doug Rimmer, delineated that it's a special meeting and new business can't be taken up. We didn't have the appropriate members to make endorsements, and yet a motion was made to change the rules for this meeting to be able to make endorsements.
It's almost like the same people, these same names, are trying to, for lack of a better term, infiltrate all these organizations, and they don't want to follow the rules except when they need to not follow the rules. Would that be fair to say?
I think it's fair to say. I think it's fair to say. And the contrarian in me is dying to point out who made the motion to make endorsements against the bylaws of the Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee.
Well, before, Mr. Contrarian, you step off into that rabbit hole, let me just remind folks that when I was on the Bossier PEC, or Republican PEC, the executive committee, and by the way, I'm the one that designed the logo that they're using and all that, we had a standing policy of not endorsing one Republican over another unless there were extenuating circumstances. So as an example, when Cynthia Carroll Bridges ran for judge, I think the last race, she came to the PEC meeting, you know, as a lot of the candidates do, to, you know, give their little spiel and why we should hopefully endorse them, or, you know, whatever. But there were two Republicans in that race, and so Mike Collier, who was chairman then, let her know up front, you know, look, we have a policy that unless there's something really egregious, we can't endorse one Republican over another, but we certainly want to hear you. And, you know, a little side note, of course, I rattled off one of my normal Second Amendment questions, which Cynthia Carroll Bridges answered flawlessly, and her opponent, who I'm not going to name at the moment, he's a sitting judge right now, anyway, kind of fumbled through it. But anyways, the point is that there were two Republicans in that race, and we didn't endorse. Now, in the Mills and Gaddy race, the Republican PEC decided to endorse Mills after some back and forth and make an exception to that rule because of some other issues that were on the table legislatively. So, full disclosure in case somebody wants to bring that up. Yeah, I'm well aware of that.
Well, now that raises another question, because historically, and again, in full disclosure, there are cases and circumstances where one Republican was endorsed over, per se, another Republican. But that was in a case where multiple Republicans could be endorsed. Case in point, the bylaws were amended in the last PEC that you and I both served on, and we changed the bylaws to where we created a new endorsement policy to where multiple Republicans could be endorsed, but they had to seek the endorsement. And one particular race comes to mind, and it's a little personal, to where there was one Republican endorsed over another Republican, but the other Republican didn't even seek the endorsement. It's not that he wouldn't get it, he didn't seek it.
Right.
Now, in all fairness, as this new PEC has been seated, you know, in that transition, those endorsement policies weren't recorded. And for everybody watching, they have to be recorded with, you know, at the courthouse. But this current PEC could have used those endorsement policies, but they chose to revert to what was recorded at the courthouse, which prevented them from being able to endorse multiple Republicans. They made that decision. So, circling back around to the contrarian in me, the actual person that made the motion to change the rules at the Republican Parish Executive Committee to endorse in this election when it was in conflict with our bylaws was none other than the wife of Santi Parks, Juliana Parks.
Very interesting.
So
There it is. Well, you know, like I said earlier, it's we want to follow the rules or not follow the rules until it's convenient to do the exact opposite. Typical of most politicians, and you know, it just gets insane sometimes.
but Rex, you and I are just, who are we? I mean, there's one group of, or one class of people, and then there's another class of people. I would argue that you and I are not a part of that class.
Yeah, I would argue definitely not a part of that class. And this is going to get more interesting, you know, as time progresses here in the future, as we get more meetings. Oh, and I want everybody to know as well, the Republican Executive Committee is enabled by statute, and the meetings technically fall under open meetings laws. So anytime you want to go join a PEC meeting or just go sit and watch, and you know, if they offer a public comment period, sometimes I know we did when Mike Collier was chairman. Hey, you want to see how the Republican Party operates structurally, let me put it that way, in Bossier Parish? Here you go. I would argue I'm, you know, not part of that group. Full disclosure, yes, I did qualify for the PEC seat again, but I really didn't do anything to try to run it because I saw what was coming. So let's just put it that way.
So wait a minute. Somebody was recruited to run against you.
Oh, gosh. Could it be another familiar name?
You're the most conservative guy I know, with the exception of me, yet someone was recruited to remove you for some reason.
And it might just be someone that naturally is currently on the PEC, and it might also be a police juror. And I would remind everybody, now, this may upset some folks that are watching, but I would just like to remind people of who is actually, speaking of being truly conservative, my definition of being a conservative is really simple. It's someone who is averse or against more government expansion and intervention. That's pretty much it for me. It doesn't mean I think we shouldn't have any government. Of course we should. I'm too lazy to ride a horse. I like to have the roads out there, although they're in repair, need to be repaired. So I'm not, you know, against government certainly or whatever, but I'm against this massive expansion of government because with that comes massive tax increases. And I know for a absolute fact that the person who was recruited to run, literally recruited to run against me to be on the PEC, who is also a current police juror, is for higher taxes. Period. Full stop. And that'll be coming up before too much longer.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard the rumor that Rimmer was recruited to run against you by none other than State Representative Raymond Cruz.
Now,
have you heard that?
Well, I've heard that rumor. Hey, I don't know. I wasn't sitting in the room or on the other end of the telephone when this happened. But here's the question. Why would Raymond, and look, Raymond's a nice guy, but why would Raymond try to recruit anybody? That's the real question.
Maybe it wasn't Raymond. Maybe it was somebody close to Raymond.
I don't know. Very interesting. Could be somebody else pulling some strings.
Maybe somebody close to Raymond is the one that started the rumor of me recruiting Ben Gibson to run against Mike Johnson.
It could be the same person, couldn't it? That's how the politics are played, people.
And here we are connecting dots. We said we were going to try to shoot for an hour because we had some folks saying that, look, they had stuff they needed to do and we were pushing up against Tucker Carlson. So we're sitting on an hour. I mean, how much further you want to go, Rex? Or do we want to?
we could sit here for days, I'm sure. We'd have to get our wives to just bring us food and, you know, some water or something to drink. We could go for days, but we probably need to start winding it up because, yeah, once we start hitting that hour mark, that does start stretching it pretty long.
Well, why don't we wind it up a little bit about our other anonymous tips, you know, that we've gotten. Maybe we don't go super deep into it, but we just say that we've gleaned a little information.
Yes, we have. Oh, you know what? I'll tell you what, kind of related to that. Let me see if I can pull up. Did I have this screenshot saved? Yes. So I want to clarify something, and then we'll go there. So in one of my deals, I had videos in one of the meetings. I was trying to figure out who Jim Bean, B-E-A-N, was concerning the Cypress district, because he was listed as receiving $299,000 and some change, $1,000 of the $3 million bond/loan disbursements for the Cypress Park. And we did find out who Jim is. As a matter of fact, his wife responded to one of the posts in the Friends of Cypress Black Bayou group, and she seems to be a real nice lady. And so he was the general contractor, I guess, kind of coordinating or working directly with Robert Berry as they did some of these renovations, like the $1 million, but it was really $40,000 event center. So anyway, the main question I had at that time was, he was paid nearly $299,000, and some other people have brought this up. He hand wrote his timesheets for, I don't know, a couple of years, 2 or 3 years while he was doing these projects. You would think that at least the Cypress district would have come up with a nicely formatted timesheet to fill in, or maybe they could have bought QuickBooks. I don't know. But anyway, so we did find out who Jim Bean is. So I want to clear that up. But you were talking about some of these other tips. So I'm just going to tease this out there because, again, I don't have any verification of this yet. Well, I kind of do, because there are some timesheets in this public information that kind of lean this way. But let's just say there might have been some Hondurans involved. I don't know.
Whoa, I didn't, okay. That's an interesting question. Yeah. I wonder who, anyway, we'll leave that out there. We'll let that sit right there.
Yeah, I got to do my, you know, my thing and dig into it and do some information request and verify. I'm just telling you what was mentioned to me, and I was asked to look into.
Do I need to ride up to the gate at Cypress here and see if the lights are on in the office up there?
Maybe so. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, well, that actually wasn't the anonymous tips I was talking about.
I kind of threw that bomb out there.
Yeah, you threw that one out there. Boy, the bonfire is going to be bright tomorrow all during the day.
Yes. So what have you got?
Well, you know, we received an anonymous email.
Oh, yes.
You know, I know me and you were both on the joint emails, and we received an anonymous email, and people wonder if that's possible. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, we got one. Mm-hmm. And it talks about of all things, Caddo Parish ADA, and a traffic stop that yielded a ADA that was suspected to be under the influence by the officer, and to my understanding from the email, admitted to being on a medicine that clearly, when prescribed, states that you shouldn't operate any vehicles. And in many, many cases, folks have been charged with DWI for that simple fact. Yes,
and it was a very well worded, kind of lengthy email, as a matter of fact, if I recall. And yeah, I mean, we'll ask the question. I'll just simplify it. What gives with that? First, we had Lynn Lawrence. Well, let's back up a little bit. First,
but Rex, let me say this before you go there. we were challenged.
Oh, you're right, we were.
We were challenged. They said, basically they challenged us of whether we would actually say it or read it. I mean, I'm guessing that, wait a minute, let me read the question.
Yeah.
Will you ask it?
Yes.
Question, will you ask the question?
Yes. Now, so I don't have the email pulled up in front of me. Is the specific question in the email that we need to ask?
Yeah, it was in the email. I have it right here. It's right there. The very last sentence is question mark. Will you ask the question?
So
I'm saying for some reason we did not ask the question.
So I'm saying we're obviously going to ask the question, you know, basically what's going on with this. And so I want to circle back just for a second. You know, it wasn't that long ago, what, a month ago maybe or whatever, that Lynn Lawrence, a local attorney, rolled an SUV that belongs to the district attorney's office, and he's not a DA. He's, you know, a local attorney, but not associated directly with the DA's office. And it ended up upside down in the bottom of a bayou. And, you know, we saw the news report where the next day he had to do a virtual court appearance, and the judge kind of admonished him because his hair was ruffled, or I don't know what the whole deal was. So you think about that, and it's been radio silence about that incident. Literally, somehow, Lynn Lawrence got a hold of a district attorney vehicle, rolled it in a ditch, and it just poof disappears. Now we've got this challenge from an ADA case from Caddo that was moved, or correct me if I'm wrong, was moved over to Bossier so that there wouldn't be a conflict of interest with the Caddo DA's office, and they just decided not to do anything about it. Literally nothing.
Yeah, it begs the question. I mean, and again, we get back to common names and names involved in things. I would be interested to know who the DA in Bossier was that actually determined that an admittal on tape of having taken a medication that is known to, should I say, sedate or impair a person from operating vehicle. I'd be interested to know who I doubt the district attorney did the case, but I would be interested to know who the ADA was that did it.
Exactly.
And, you know, again, we go back to names, common names that keep coming up in different circles, and here we are. It seems like we're making a circle here. There's not enough time tonight to go into it. I mean, granted, me and you could talk about it all night long, but there is a kind of a connection here that circles back to some of the other subject matter that we've talked about, correct?
Absolutely. We have got enough material in front of us right now to last us for the next 6 months of shows, and that doesn't include the stuff that's like going on right now that's going to get added to that list. So
yeah, it's amazing, and the stuff that is pouring in to us as people see that we're actually going to talk about these things. We're actually going to be a legitimate group that is not afraid to talk about it. I think we're going to get overwhelmed.
yeah, it is what it is. It's not like I've got an anti-Bossier bent. I've lived here now for about 15 years, I think. My parents have lived here longer than that. My grandparents passed away years ago, but they lived here even longer than that. I love living in Bossier. This is stuff that goes on that a lot of people talk about in private, or they might talk about it, you know, in certain social settings, but they don't really want to talk about it in public, literally out of fear.
Literally out of fear. And there's no reason that anybody should live in Bossier and be fearful.
No, absolutely not. So.
You know, we all hear the stories of the days of past, and I think Bossier is a different place now.
Yes, it is.
And that that needs to go its own way. And hopefully you and I are going to be able to shine a light on all of this stuff. And it's not personal because, again, there's a lot of folks, and I hear some of these names, and they're names that I've known all my life, you know, and but the truth of the matter is we need government to work on behalf of the people, and it needs to be upright and in the best of intentions.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. The government needs to work on behalf of the people, not the other way around. And, you know, we can say what we want about social media, and it's good and bad, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or whatever, but at least we've got a platform now where this information can be put out there and people can digest it and comment on it and like it or not like it or whatever. But at least we've got a platform to be able to share this out and get this information out there and ask the questions and do all that.
So I guess we'll wrap it up there. And I would say that we ask the folks that view this video, and we need to ask them for a little help, because while we have a pretty good reach already, and people are watching our videos, they're learning about what's going on, they're paying attention. Yeah. It may not be reflected in the likes or the loves or the little icons on the page, but they're watching it, they're digesting it, they're consuming it. But we want to branch that out even further. Talk about a little bit about what we can do to branch this thing out.
Yeah, and we'll wrap up with that. So first thing is, obviously, you know, like and share the page, tag friends or whatever. If you don't want it to be, you know, kind of on your public timeline, send it to them through Facebook Messenger. Facebook actually likes it when you use Messenger to share content out, because they feel that it's more worthy if you take the time to share it through Messenger. So that's one way if you don't want it on your timeline. Look, we get it. The other thing is, you can email us at bossierwatch@gmail.com. If you want to make it anonymous, completely anonymous, go to protonmail.com, create your own account, just use a random name, and send us an email to bossierwatch@protonmail.com from your Proton Mail you account. It's free, takes 2 minutes, and it's completely anonymous then. We literally don't know who sent it, how they sent it, whatever. And so that's something else you can do. Of course, visit our website, bossierwatch.org. I'm going to continue to kind of roll that out. We're going to do some long form articles there that correspond to a lot of this. And look, the fact is, some of this takes money, this software that we're using and all that sort of thing. If you know, you feel inclined, we've got a secure donation button there. We've actually received a little bit of donations. That kind of helps offset a little bit of the cost of this. So, you know, if you want to do that, fine. If you don't, that's fine, because the information is going to be shared out either way. And then we do have a call-in phone number. Let me put this up and we'll close out with this. Let me see if I can find it. So we have this number right here. You can actually send a text message to 318-217-4511, and we get that, and we'll be glad to share information. Now, if you do that from your phone, we will know what phone number you're sending it from, so it's not anonymous that way. Or you can call, and if you want to just leave us a voicemail, some information you have, something you didn't like about the show, something you like about the show, call and leave us a voicemail. Just be warned, if you leave us a voicemail and it's interesting, funny, whatever, we may actually play it on the show. So just be aware of that. So those are ways that you can reach out and kind of help us as we go. We can't be everywhere all the time. We need help from the viewers and people out there who are keeping an eye on this. We need help finding information and doing some research.
And perfect. You covered all the dots. But there's one thing. If you're a politician out there and you think you've been unjustly accused by the Contrarians, by all means, come on.
It's just a click away.
It's just a click away.
All right, well, let's end it with
night.
that. All right, see y'all later. Good night, everybody.
Good night.